Hello, Mugdha. It's so nice to see you.
Hi, Christine. Thank you for having me on this chat. I'm really excited to be here.
I am excited too. And I was thinking about this has been months in the making. I reached out to you a few months ago and life happened, getting
Life happens.
sick, delaying a few times. So thank you for your patience and flexibility. We've been friends for a very, very long time. We've known each other. I was trying to think about this at least 10 years. You're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast.
Mhm.
So we've seen each other here and there. But
Yeah.
for the last 5 years, we haven't seen each other in person. So, like many friends, I've been keeping as much on top of things by social media, by Facebook and Instagram. And I reached out to you because I admitted to you I'm a bit of a lurker on Facebook. And I reached out to you because I was hoping to chat about the life you're living, specifically from the outside. I'm seeing such an expansive life. A lot of the work you've been doing, I've just been looking and saying, I'd really like to talk to you and think about how you approach that. Now, what was interesting and where I wanted to start first, Mugda, is when I reached out, we had a phone call and I shared with you that I'd love to have you on Lift Up. And that's when I realized you had just, well, not just, you had left Amazon a
Mhm.
few months previously. And I was hoping just to start out if you could share a little bit about what this year has looked like for you in 2025. I know you're brilliant. You've been a brilliant engineering manager. You've lived a very expansive life. But can you tell me, can we start with this year and how it's been for you?
Yes. This year has been like a year of reflection and recovery for me. I had pushed myself to a point of a burnout where I needed to walk away. It came to that point that I needed to walk away. And first and foremost, I would like to say that I am extremely grateful for having a family that was there to catch me when I fell and has been my safety net bulk of the year. But better part of the year was in healing. I would say for the first 6 or 7 months, I was just in this process of getting my physical and mental strength to the point where I was functional again. A lot of the reflections, a lot of the learning came from that period where I just let myself heal. I let go of trying to control the situation, of trying to tell myself that I should be able to push through this, I should be able to power through this, suck it up and just move on with life. Like things like this happen and everybody is dealing with it. Like what makes me so special? Like just go ahead and deal with it. That's the way I had led the past 5 years. And it had brought me to a point where I couldn't function anymore. And taking that step back and making myself a priority and not looking on rest as something that I had to earn or deserve, but taking it for just as required for living your life. We don't look at rest and think of it as something that is deserved or even deserved. I don't like that word because it's needed. It is something that is, it's not a luxury. It is not something that you have to earn. It should be as simple as breathing, or it should come to you as natural as just waking up in the morning. Like you need to allow yourself that rest, that
Yeah.
recuperation, so that you can take on the challenges of the day. And I, for myself, had been denying myself that rest for the longest time. And it came in really weird ways. I knew I was struggling at work. I knew that I was not having the same happiness for solving the hard problems. The problems were hard. The work was challenging. The team that I worked with was really good, but it was not easy. And I was not having the same sense of doing something meaningful. And then I tried to do other things to maybe bring that sense of meaning, to bring that sense of joy, that sense of happiness to my life. The work is work, and I don't get that sense of belonging, of joy, of happiness, of doing something meaningful. So let me do it through art. Let me flex my creative muscle. And I tried to do so many things just to get that, and it didn't work.
So there's so much I want to unpack. We never ever really know what's going on with others internally. And
Yeah.
when you're speaking to now, so the way I describe you, you're one of my friends. You're a brilliant engineering leader and engineering manager. And I did know for many tech folks, arriving at an Amazon is the pinnacle of their
Yeah.
career. But when you just described you've been taking on these other creative outlets and other expansive outlets, in addition to being an engineering leader, you're also a brilliant, accomplished actress, performing quite a bit in the Bay Area. You also, I've seen, have been participating in stand-up
Yes.
comedy. You're raising 2 amazing boys along with your husband, very accomplished boys. Oh, by the way, in addition to that, you and your family just hiked Mount Kilimanjaro. When I first reached out, I believe you were about to go on your trip and you were very modest and humble. You just said, "Oh, I'll be away for a while." But then I saw your family successfully hiked Mount Kilimanjaro. And I'm taking it back to you described this past year as starting as a fall and realizing you were burned out. From the outside, I'm seeing all of these amazing accomplishments. And I'm wondering if you could take me back to you were trying to make your work in tech continue, but you were looking for outlets outside of it. But can you take me back to when you recognized it wasn't working, that you needed to make a shift? Like, when did you recognize this burnout was not okay and you needed to shift something?
Now that I have the benefit of hindsight, I think the signs were clear even at the beginning of 2024, where I would kind of be apprehensive Sunday night, like, okay, tomorrow I have to go back and I have to deal with all these things. It's not sustainable and the team is stretched too thin and the demands that are being made are not sustainable, but we have to make things work. You don't have the number of people that you actually need to successfully deliver something, and then you have to make trade-offs and you have to really think through how you're going to make those trade-offs and how you're going to scale. And these are the challenges that as an engineering leader, I'm sure every engineering leader faces, right? And it's like Tetris. Okay, you move a piece from here and you move it there and things should fit in and it's tight, but we are going to make this work. But it started becoming more and more draining rather than putting my mind to, okay, this is a problem that I need to solve and let's come to it with solutions. Any solution that you come up with was never good enough. The pressure just kept building over and over again. I probably was close to that and I still pushed through a year more. And with the benefit of hindsight, I would say I probably should have taken this break at the beginning of last year. That's where I was. It became very real for me when I came back from India at the end of December 2024. This anxiety that had started building manifested as a panic attack the day before I had to go back to work and start working again. Like I was setting my laptop up, going through emails and thinking about things, and I'm like hyperventilating and just a full blown panic attack is when I realized that I'm in a state where I need to walk away. I cannot do this.
I'm sorry you were going through that, Mugdha. So, when you had the panic attack, was that the moment that you just realized that you needed to take a step back? Did you talk with your family? How did you eventually make the final decision? And I'm asking you this, the majority of the audience is women mid-career, and some of them are trying to figure out what's next, and they've hit this point where they're still pushing through. And I wonder, you hit the point where you had the panic attack. You mentioned you knew earlier something was wrong, but
Yeah.
can you speak to, for those women who are feeling very similarly to the way you were, like, how did you eventually get to the point where you just were like, enough, I'm taking a pause?
A lot of things led up to the point of the panic attack, right? Like
Mhm.
that was the last straw, if you will. But health was suffering. I was always tired. Like the euphoria of creating something Even when people would tell me, "Oh, this is great, like you've done a good job," whether it was a play that I was producing, whether it was something that I was actually on stage with, it didn't bring the same kind of joy or happiness that it used to. And I know I should be enjoying this, and I would be in the middle of a celebration
Mhm.
thinking about what's coming next rather than enjoying that particular moment. The seeds of this were planted in my head, like something's not right, or what I'm seeing is not right, and this is not how it should be. My manager at Amazon, and I was having this discussion with him before going on vacation. It's like, I am close to a burnout. I am exhausted. The team's exhausted. We have just delivered something which was unreasonably tight timeline wise, and we've been asked to deliver something more unreasonably timeline wise in the next quarter. And we all are close to a burnout. I remember these words. I was like, I am burnt out. And my manager's words to me were like, "You're not the first engineering manager who's burnt out, and you won't be the last." While true, when I walked out of the meeting, I was stunned from the point of view is like how callously it is accepted that this is how things are,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
little we pay mind to what people are going through. Like work is one, right? Like the world that we are living in today, there are so many different stressors that a person faces. You have a family and there might be things going on there. Then you have your workplace where things are not how they need to be. And the job is no longer a place where I go 9 to 5 and then I can check out of there, right? Like the job is ever present. Everybody has their phones. You have Slack messages lighting up through the night. And it was not just me. Like, I'm not saying that it was particularly harsh for me, but it is true for everyone. And there is no empathy for that. So, yes, it has become a lot more about just being a number in like a cog in the wheel, right? Like that's just how it is. We've lost the human touch to a large extent.
Absolutely. How long did it take you from the time you had your panic attack to telling Amazon you were leaving?
I ended up taking 3 month long medical leave. But towards the end of it, when I went back to my manager, my realization was that 3 months is not going to be enough. I needed to really focus on my health because you a burnout, if you've not experienced it, it is really debilitating to the point of you not being able to function. My fear, if I walk away from the job, I may never get a job anywhere else
Yeah.
again. I don't know if I'm capable of doing anything. It was an attack of the imposter syndrome for the first 3 months that I took the time off, but I did not have any physical energy left in me to do anything about it. And I would just let it be. I slept the first three
Yeah.
months. I slept. I would climb back into the bed after dropping my son off to school and I would be knocked out.
I was wondering this whole notion of recovering from burnout. When you were saying that you just wanted to get into bed and you could just go to sleep, I was talking with someone just last night who brought up to me, "Oh, do you have problems sleeping?" I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
that's not the issue. When I'm in bed, I'm good any time of day." But that's your body telling you something. That's a
Yeah.
sign that you've been pushing too hard. And I wonder for those of us who are either struggling with burnout now or feel we may be getting close to that point, can you tell us about your journey? I know you're still in the journey of recovering, but what did you do for yourself?
Routine. Eventually, that's where it came to. So 3 months of just sleeping, not doing anything. But eventually, it was like a blessing in disguise. At that point, it didn't seem that way, but we had this big Kilimanjaro trip that we had signed up for. So you would ask me, like, why? Given everything that was going on, why did you sign? It was one of those crazy things, like people do marathons and Ironmans and whatnot, right? Like to feel something, Kilimanjaro was my Hail Mary, if you will. So we had signed up for this. It was a mountain that My husband and I, we wanted to climb for mm, close to 2 decades. It's something or the other would always come up, and we had not been able to go. I was like, okay, we'll do it in August. In 2024, when he asked, I was like, okay, we'll do it next year. So that ended up helping me a lot because I had to train for it. Right? We had been training for it, but now it's 3 months away. I need to really kick up the training gear for it, right? So the routine helped. I would exercise in the morning. Hiking, for all practical purposes, it's an extremely solitary sport. Even if you have people around you, you have to focus. You have to go through the hard physical things that you have to get through. And it helps you meditate in a way. It's like a moving meditation. And that helped center me. I was still not at a point where I could consider what I want to do after this,
Yeah.
career wise, or how am I going to go forward from here. I don't think I was ready to think about it at that point. But at least the morning exercise, then making sure, like, I had these little things that I would chart out for myself, like small things, but that would give me a sense of control and accomplishment over tiny things that I would do. And it could be as simple as I'm going to go exercise in the morning, I come home, and I'm going to go do grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Just stepping out and making conversations with somebody. I would make sure that I'm checking out at a place where there is somebody actually checking things out, because then I get to talk to them. You
The
know.
aspect of having a routine and
Yes,
goals and knowing what you're going to do with your day and making those steps and actions. Yes, one of your goals was hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, but it also sounds like it doesn't have to be
it
that
doesn't
big.
have to
It's
be.
like taking a step.
Yes. And I had told myself after I reached Tanzania, any point of the time, I feel like I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm going to walk away. I'm going
Yeah.
to say, this is it. This is my journey. It brings me till here. You guys continue. I'm going to head back. That's what I had told myself, because I was very apprehensive going in, whether I would be able to do even one single day, actually, to be honest. I had trained for it. I think more than the physical training of it, I was not sure if I had the mental fortitude to be able to push through it. But yes, routines help me, and they don't have to be crazy. No, do small things, but get into a routine and set yourself achievable goals wherever you are, right? Like in my case, I was turning inwards. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to go back in my shell. So the little things that I did for myself is, as I said, go out, do small things, go do your grocery shopping, talk to two people.
Mhm.
My core is I love communities, I love talking to people. I need people around me. And I was turning away from that
Yeah.
as a result of this burnout. So for me, that was important. So you identify what is important for you and what is your core essence, if you will, and try to slowly and steadily gain that back. And also accept that things change. My biggest problem last year, I was not willing to accept that things are changing. And I kept trying to hold on to this is who I am and that's how I'm going to be and I cannot change.
You were mentioning before the hike, you were giving yourself permission, rightfully so, to stop if you felt the need to stop and you were going in. You didn't know if you had the mental fortitude. You did hike Mount
I did right.
Kilimanjaro successfully with your husband and your two boys. And
Yes.
I'm wondering, how did it feel once you accomplished that goal?
It didn't sink
It's
in.
amazing, by the
It
way.
didn't sink in for weeks. Yeah, it was extremely surreal. Kilimanjaro did for me is that it did not let me find any escape routes. And I had to process everything that I was shoving in a closet, if you will, or pushing under the carpet, if you will, by my sleeping or doom scrolling or just not facing things for what they were. And this is personal, and everybody might have very different experiences. But for me, the biggest heartbreak that I've had of my life was it's really interesting. It's 16 years ago when I was pregnant with my son. My father passed away 2 months before he was born. So I lost a parent. At the same time, I gave birth to my first son. And it was like a dichotomy of emotions.
Yeah.
Like there's a loss, and then you have this immense amount of love for this little tiny being that came into your life. And I lost my father due to complications of type 2 diabetes. And the biggest challenge was the way he grew up in India, culturally, right? His way of showing or expressing his appreciation, his love, was through food. And he was denied that towards the end of his life. Last 4 5 years of his life, we would try to get him to follow a strict diet. And it just robbed him of his way of expressing how he really felt, because that's what, for him, if he really liked you, if he wanted to show his appreciation for anything, he would be through food, whether he would make it, whether he would order it, whether he would try to figure out what you like. It was a tough time for those 4 5 years. But for me personally, what it ended up doing is like this disease stole my dad away from me. And I just had my son, I was holding him in my hands. And I'm like, I don't want you to ever feel that horrible emotion. While as a parent, over the past 16 years, I've realized like I cannot protect him from everything. And he has to go through his own journey in his life. I used to love baking and I stopped
Mhm.
cold turkey to the point where, you know what? I don't want it. I don't want this in my life. I did not even eat bite of a cake, even for his first birthday party. My son, when he was in eighth grade, he started his own bakery. He was very passionate about it. It was a successful little enterprise. And he would experiment and he would tell me, like, why don't you try this out?
Mhm.
Taste this, give me feedback. And I wouldn't eat that. And I would see his face, but I had just held so hard into not eating anything sweet. So I was thinking about all this on the hike, like these
Mhm.
thoughts and memories and emotions that kept coming up, and I had to process them. I made a decision. I cannot be denying myself these simple pleasures of life just for the fear of dying. You cannot stop living.
You were talking about wanting to be there for your son and be alive and healthy. You have two boys. I have one
Yeah.
boy. And during this year for you, you've been going through a lot and you were sharing this shift in identity that you've been having to make, this resistance to change, this needing to sleep all day long. And your boys, what I've recognized is our children see us and they know
Yes.
when we're going through things. I wonder, what are you hoping your boys learned from watching you over the last year? Because they know when
They
our
know
moms aren't doing as well as they'd like or aren't feeling healthy. They know.
to have empathy, to see people for what they're doing. And if they just take that forward in their life, I believe all the suffering would have been worth it. To be honest, you're right. Kids sense it, they feel it. They might not say it, but they do. And you'd ask me what was a wake up call. This comes to mind. Like one of the moments that gave me pause was I was driving my son to one of his competitions, I believe. And I had thoughts going through my mind, and I was not talking to him. He was sitting there, he was listening to songs, and he was thinking about something. And he turns to me and he goes, "Are you upset with me?" And I'm like, "No." And he goes like, "Are you crying?" And I'm like, "I'm not crying." And then he starts mentioning times like, "Okay, I thought you were upset with me, and this is why, because your face is all stressed." And
Mhm.
that gave me pause. I didn't want my kids to walk around eggshells around me just because I have the stress at work that inadvertently I'm bringing home. I try so hard so that it does not impact what I feel for them. A home or a house should be a safe haven for them. They should not be worried about whether I'm going to lash out at them just because I'm having stress at work. And I was not. He was just being perceptive about it.
Yeah.
And that was another point which gave me pause. Hey, is this impacting my family more than it is impacting me at this point?
I'm thinking about we all have different configurations of mess and cracking open, and we all have different stories. But a lot of the women I've spoken to, including you, there's been that cracking open in the mess, whether it's been realizing panic attacks or just hitting a really, really low point. I know I've been there as well. And one thing I'm seeing through these stories is that cracking open can oftentimes lead to realizations that we didn't get at other times. And when you're speaking about having 16 years where you've been so careful about not eating a dessert, even when your boys come to you and say, will
Yeah.
you try this? And 16 years of not being able to taste this,
Yes.
you flipped a switch. It sounds like that you thought, you know what? It's time to live.
It's time to live. Yep.
What led to this epiphany for you?
I stopped running behind things that didn't matter. And again, when I say this, I am extremely cognizant of the fact that I had an amazing safety net in place. And not everybody has that opportunity or possibility. So I'm blessed for that. But yeah, I came to a realization that avoiding things was not the right way of doing things. I have a problem. I have to become creative to find a solution. And all my years of training as an engineer, that doesn't go waste. Faced with a problem, rather than saying, okay, I'm not going to deal with this problem, yanked open that door and saying, okay, how can I solve this problem? And one of the motivations, if you want to call it a motivation, is my mother is now at a point of her life where she's at the same similar situation where my dad was, where there are some restrictions of on eating that her health kind of, so you have to be mindful of it. And she resists them. Anytime you ask a person, you can't do this, they're going to resist it. And that's where she is. And I'm hoping that we don't have to do that. Like a sweet tooth runs in the family. It seems such a small thing when it causes so many problems. And I was like, if she wants to eat something sweet, let me come up with a way that she can enjoy it, make it more accessible. And the more I have talked to people, I see that a lot of people struggle with this. And in general, these kind of foods are not accessible to everyone. And so many of us struggle with sugar and the refined flour and the white refined sugar. A lot of us are becoming more and more aware of these things, the way we consume the food and how it is not accessible at all to us. I met with a mom the other day at one of the markets, and her son has severe gluten sensitivity. And she was like, I told her, like, yeah, I'm a home baker. And I can't say this is gluten free, but they're gluten conscious ingredients. And she took it home and her son enjoyed it. And she sent me a note afterwards. And she was so happy that he could have some sense of normalcy brought back to his life by just enjoying a sweet treat. It matters. And
It does matter, and I wanted to speak to this because I'm trying to think about the timeline for your year. So, I reached out to you, and my whole intention was to talk about as an engineering leader, your expansive life, your acting, your stand-up, and we may have time to get into that, but the timeline was I reached out to you to say, "Could we speak about this?" You
yeah,
kindly responded, but you said, "I'm going on my trip." Once you got back, I mentioned I follow you on Facebook and Instagram. That's when I started seeing a new facet to your life, which was I was seeing you post about these amazing treats you were baking, and you're speaking to better for you cakes. But what was the timeline here? When you were hiking, you realized that you weren't going to limit yourself anymore. But when did the baking come into play again? I know it's always been a passion of yours in the past.
so we came back from Kilimanjaro, and I had come to this conclusion that I'm not going to deny myself simple pleasures of life. But at the same time, I knew that regular pastries, treats, and things that people use to celebrate occasions really don't work well with my health. And I'm mindful of that. So my aim at that point was I have lots of birthdays. Every month, there is someone's birthday in the family. Okay, you tell me what fruits you like, and I'm going to make two cakes. One, which I like to call YOLO cakes, like you only live once, and you can have that. They are made, they're amazing. But I'll make these cakes from almond flour and protein powder and, sugar alternatives for myself. I will cut both and I'll eat my cake. And that's how it started. That was my whole aim for myself. And what I realized over a couple of birthdays, it's like nobody's eating the other cake and everybody wants to eat my cake.
Poor
And
YOLO cakes.
poor YOLO cakes, right? Like even the kids for that matter. So that's where it started. And my brother-in-law was very supportive. It is way where he was like, you should sell them. And I'm like, I don't think so. Who's going to buy them? It's like, no, 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 you should sell them. And that's how Time for Something Sweet started. He was so supportive.
Unbelievable.
He's been the biggest champion.
I speak with a lot of women about moving into your next act, and it's typically not, ta-da, here's the grandiose idea. It's small incremental steps that you take
Yes.
along the way, and you're taking action. So I'm wondering, where are you now with your baking business?
So right now, if I have to use the engineering or the product terms, I have a product. I'm trying to find the product market fit. And I'm also doing a lot of product development, if you will. So I test out different things and cookies and bars, and I'm exploring breads. So just trying to see where it goes. We'll see where next year takes me, but I'm hoping next year I will probably look into having a brick and mortar place to start. But this is where I want to be, is for sure, is what I've realized. The closest I want to go back to a corporate campus is sell my cakes in their cafes.
Mugdha, you were speaking to any change and shift in identity and moving into a next act. We have resistance to it, but there's
Yes.
also a lot of grief around it. And I wonder, you are moving into this next act. I see you lighting up when you're talking about many of these activities. Are you feeling any grief still around these shifts? Like, it's hard shifting your identity after 20, 25 plus years in a certain direction. And I'm wondering, have you moved beyond that now? Are you to the other side?
No. Because it has been such a big part of my journey, right? And while I did burn out, and while eventually I had to step back from it, seems like cold turkey, right? Like I just stopped. Tech has been such a big part of my life. I have learned so much. I have gained so much from the industry that it's hard to leave it behind. I have memories of struggle. Being a woman in tech was not easy. And I've put in a lot of effort to be heard, to matter, to have influence. So no, it's not. I
Yeah.
don't know the answer to that. I don't know how we can ever get to the other side, right? But what I like to tell myself, and I'm still recovering. So the flashes do come. There are times when I still have anxiety. What I tell myself is I'm going to dwell on what I've learned, the connections that I've made, things that have been positive so far. And the hard times is where the learning is. So you
Yeah.
reflect, understand what you could have done different, and be aware that you don't end up in this situation again. So the
Yeah.
biggest thing I would say I keep on telling myself is that I have to protect my peace. And that's the learning from the past 15 years. And I cannot move away from it. I'm going to carry it with me.
Well, I think that's important to highlight too. I don't know when it was. I think it was a couple of years ago. I was seeing like a visual depiction, someone describing grief, where grief doesn't disappear. It never disappears. It's a part of
No.
who we are. And the visual depiction was when you're first grieving, big, big, big circle of grief. But as your life expands, as you find more things that fill you up, the grief is still there, but there's so many of these wonderful other aspects of
Yes.
our lives. And that really spoke to me. And it's honestly one of the reasons I was first reaching out to you, like figuring out how to live an expansive life. And I haven't asked you, but you're building this new business. You moved away from tech. It sounds like you don't see yourself going back into an engineering leadership role. So you have your bakery, but where are the other outlets of your life fitting in now? Like I spoke to just briefly that you're an accomplished actress, that you've been doing stand up work, but can you tell me about what else is happening right now for you?
So I still am involved, or though not as a person on stage, like not as an actor, but I've been involved more with helping in the production side of things over the past year. And I probably will continue doing that. Believe it or not, I'm not at a point right now where I can be vulnerable to go and audition for anything because you put yourself up for judgment
Mhm.
when you go and audition. And I don't think I am emotionally where I need to be, where I can do that as yet.
Mhm.
So what I've been doing is I will help out with production, maybe procuring things, maybe going and building things, maybe helping out with getting music tracks ready or whatever is required, but not for auditioning at this point, which I think is a big loss for me personally. I used to really thrive being on that stage. But having said that, the way I found an outlet is the stand up side of things. I don't have a lot of control over a lot of my life right now. So this is maybe a way of saying I have control over this because with a stand up routine, what I found is that I find an outlet where I can laugh at myself. My stand up routines, usually the way I write it, are about myself, poking fun at myself and being able to make light of the way things are or have been.
I've seen also you've been posting a few clips too
Yes.
on Instagram where it's not stand up per se, but they're really funny and
Yeah.
performances on your part. Are you still viewing that as an outlet too? Just
Yes.
fun for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, like it is something like the thing that theater gave me was this ability to look at a situation from the other person's point of view, which came in very handy being in a leadership role specifically, is when you're in these contentious meetings, at times you can think from other person's point of view and what they're actually trying to get. So you can find a win-win situation rather than it becoming an impasse. I really like that. And so those little snippets that I do is my way of being, it's still being accessible to me.
Yeah. I was just recently having a conversation with a friend about abundance and what abundance means to us. And I'm admittedly still figuring that out, but I'm wondering through the journey you've been taking, there's lots of definitions of abundance and living a meaningful, abundant life. But through the journey you've taken so far and where you are now, what does it mean to you to live an abundant and meaningful life? How do you think about it?
It's a very big question. So I don't know if my answer is going to be just as meaningful, but making a small difference one day at a time to anyone at it would,
Yeah.
for me, be leading a meaningful life. You talked about something that actually was one of the learnings that I had going through the past year is how much of our being, sense of being, is tied up with the work that we do at these corporations and the titles that we have and the money that we bring in. And it is all external validation. And the big part of the learning that I've had is that it's not that, it's what makes me feel proud of myself. If I need to have that external validation, it's the kids and my husband and what do they think about what I'm doing. So through the bakery, through the community events that I'm doing, being able to build a community and making, the way I think of it is like making these simple pleasures of life accessible to everyone is where the meaning of life for me is at this point.
I love that. And as you've been going through this journey, since you've been back from the hike, since you've started building your business. What have you heard from your husband and kids? What have they been telling you?
You were talking about the financial abundance. And the funniest thing my little one said to me the other day is like, do you make enough to pay the rent on a small studio where we live? And I'm like, no. He was like, you work harder than what you worked at Amazon? You look happier. You're poorer for it, but you look happier. He seems happier. He gets his mom to be around much longer than I used to be around when I was working full time. So I'm more present. And I think that matters a lot. Kids are going to grow up. They are going to be outward bound and they have to go and live their life. And I'm just looking at these next few years as more time with them.
Thank you for being so vulnerable about your story. I know it's been a journey for you, and thank you for sharing. I know back to where I started saying we don't know what's happening with others. I know in these chaotic, messy times, we're all going through something. So, my philosophy has been the more we can share the mess with each other, the
Yes.
better. So, thank you for sharing your story. I'm wondering, we spoke about a lot, and I feel like I have to have you come back because there's so much more I want to ask you. But if my listeners were to take just one thing, one lesson that you've learned from your story, if there were just one major thing you'd like them to take away from our conversation today, what would you like that to be?
Listen to your body. It tells you when things are becoming too much. And rest is not a luxury. It is a need, and you should not have to earn the rest.
If people would like to learn more, where can people find you and see what you're working on these days?
Working on setting up a website at this point, and it should be up soon. The website is www.betterforyoukcakes.com, and I should have it up soonish. For now, I'm on Instagram at thyme, like the spice thyme, THYME dot something dot sweet.
Mugdha, thank you so much. I always love talking with you. Thank you for
Same
the
here,
time
same here. It's
today.
been my pleasure and my honor to be on your conversation with you on your program, and all the best with everything that you are planning and desiring.